This is the level that I showed at PAX West, which was a crazy dream come true that this hobby project was being shown next to all these amazing indie games. So I decided to show this level because it's smaller, there's like some jumping puzzles, and I thought it was a good entry into the game. But the one thing I can't seem to forget is right before we opened to the public, there was an indie dev superstar. Like, you've definitely heard of his games, and I was like terrified. He wanted to try it out. So I said, of course, like, please give me your feedback. And he was super nice, super talented, of course. But this embarrassing bug happened, which I'd never seen before in my life, where when he dug the item up, he jumped right after, and it created the dust cloud to permanently be on the rest of the level. It wouldn't turn off. So it looked like this fart cloud following the fox as it just kept running with this beautiful music and serious voiceover. And it was horrible. I think about that every time I look at this level. But, you know, I was able to fix it, so I'm glad someone could at least find that bug.
My teenage years were full of sketching, angst, and trouble. I wasn't popular or unpopular. Maybe just forgettable. I guess that gave me a sense of freedom, so I hung out with crazy kids, doing crazy things, even though I mostly just watched the chaos ensue. We did it all. Put fireworks in mailboxes, hide roadkill in people's garages, break windows of the barber shop in Anchorage. My dad was furious, but he was so busy working he couldn't do much to stop me from going out.
I think being an adult means there's no one to stop you making hard decisions. He had to make a living, and he couldn't be in two places at once.
Yeah, I realize that now. But at the time, I was sure he was more interested in growing his business than what was going on with me. He was working another late night, and my friends were over, saying how bored they were and how they had come all the way out to my house for nothing. One of them mentioned how that old, ugly beyond belief truck was still in the garage, and how we should take it for a spin. I was only 15, so I kind of fought it for a while. The next thing I knew, we were careening around the mountain path, rocks spitting onto the sides of the cliff, while my dad's cringeworthy bluegrass blared out the speakers. I drove while my friends were in the back of that yellow and purple truck, throwing beer bottles and trash at anything remotely interesting. Felt like I was soaring in the air with borrowed wings. But all good things have endings. A cop outside of Eagle River pulled us over after he saw us send a bottle rocket into someone's yard. What followed was a long night of talking to disappointed adults and feeling smaller than ever.
I always wanted this game to be very meditative and relaxing, but I know there's a balance between keeping the player's interest. So I added this butterfly jumping mechanic just to like spice things up. I used a plugin called Playmaker for Unity, which in a visual editor lets you do interactive things, which is perfect for me because I do come from a film and design background. But on the flip side, I really wish I was good at code, because this jumping mechanic, the jumping mechanic in the whole game actually has frustrated a lot of players. But hopefully I've been able to fine tune it, so it should feel a lot better now. I would just hate that this meditative game would get frustrating, so I've definitely I've lowered the gravity, I've made the jumps more consistent, so hopefully people can just focus on the world and the story.
After he drove me home from the police station, I blew up at him, saying how I never wanted to be like him, how I was going to be someone and leave that hick icebox for good. He just looked forward at the road with tired eyes. I took out that bluegrass tape from the cassette deck and chucked it out the window. In my sage teenage wisdom, I thought I had proved the ultimate point. But my dad had a different idea. He slammed the brakes, slowly bowed his head while gripping the steering wheel, and finally looked at me. All he said, like it was a polite request, was, "Make this right." I sat there in silence, fuming, but I eventually got out and combed every square inch of the woods, muttering profanity after profanity. I found it 30 minutes later, near a small waterfall off the road. I went back to the truck, put the wet tape back in, and sure enough it worked. We didn't speak another word to each other the rest of the night.
Wow, I knew you were a crazy teenager, but
It's hard to believe, isn't it? It surprises me too. It's like I didn't really know who that kid was back then. I bet my dad thought the same thing over and over. It's almost like he was saying, "Make this right," to himself, more than to me.
You may have noticed there's a little pond here, and believe it or not, I tried everything I could to get swimming working in this game, and I just could not do it, unfortunately. And so all the water in this game you can just stand in, which is, it still like bums me out, but the systems were not working, it was buggy. So I just had to throw it out, which, you know, I think it's okay. Like, I wish it was there, but again, the focus of this game is on the story. My biggest hope for the players that are playing is that they realize how similar these two parallel stories are, of this fox looking for her missing cubs, and also of this son reconnecting with his father. And so I try to add little touches in the voiceover and in the environment to help draw those parallels, even if they seem totally dissimilar. A big example is the truck, for instance, that Joseph grew up with. It's purple and yellow like the butterflies for this fox. So I tried to add as many touches like that throughout the story as possible.